I've spoken to a senior Democratic source on the Ways and Means Committee who says tonight, breaking news, they do intend to request President Trump's tax returns. That's important because, as you know and as we've reported, this is something that does not require the Senate. It does not require even a full House vote. Under federal law, the chair of the Ways and Means Committee has the power to request anyone's tax returns. They believe that includes flatly the President of the United States. So this is coming to us now. We're seeing the ramifications of Democrats on these committees who have this kind of power. This is Rep. Richard Neal. This is the ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee who would become chair if our projection holds that they are basically Democrats taking over the House. Getting your hands on those Trump tax returns, as everyone knows, would be a big deal for the committee. It doesn't mean they would automatically become public, but it does mean the Democrats are coming out swinging tonight. They're not waiting. They're putting this marker down right now, and I'm reporting this for the first time on MSNBC. They intend to request the returns, and this senior source tells me this is something that Pelosi is in on.
Now, Ari, when you say they will be requesting the president's tax returns, they're not requesting them from the president. They'll be requesting them from the IRS. Does the IRS have to say yes?
That's the question. This is federal law, as you say, 266103. And it's important that it's not Donald Trump personally making this decision, but it is, as you say, the Trump administration through the IRS. The options are to say yes and hand them over, or to fight it. And I am told, again, by the sources on the Ways and Means Committee, that if it's a fight they want, it's a fight they'll pursue. Not to get out too into the weeds, Rachel, but what that would mean is if the IRS under the Trump administration says no, then the House's move would be to try to take it to court. And you have a federal law that seems to say flatly they can request it. Then you'd have the courts adjudicate whether there's some reason legitimately for the IRS to say no.
Wow. So this is a declaration, as Laurie says, from a senior source with information about the plans of the Ways and Means Committee under what would be the new chairman, Richie Neal, congressman from Massachusetts. Ari, thank you very much.
Bet.
That's dramatic news.
It is indeed. And we have two guests here with us who can talk about that. Donna Edwards is a former Democratic member of the House of Representatives from the great state of Maryland. And Stephanie Ruhle, all our viewers should know already because she anchors at least 2 shifts a day, sometimes maybe more on this network. Welcome to you both. Congresswoman, a question about style. Should some Democrat have just done that? Say nothing of the ink isn't dry. We don't have these races done and dusted yet. This is a projection of House control by the Democrats. Is that the right look by the Democratic Party to, before this night is over, start making noise about the president's tax returns?
Well, I think that it's really important for Democrats to begin to set the table and to set the table for governing. And some of that is going to mean investigations.
I think they're halfway through dinner already, yeah.
But the other part of that is going to be, how do we govern? How do we do things that people voted for? They voted on health care and the economy and finding jobs and building roads and bridges where they don't damage their cars. And I think that Democrats are going to have a twofold strategy. And if it looks like they're just investigating everything, I think that's a really bad look for the party. And so I would urge them to think about the important investigations and then to move on from that to legislating. And even though it means that it may not go through the Senate and it may not get to the White House, it begins to set the table for 2020 and says affirmatively these are the kinds of things that we're for.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.